Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Project StarCraft casting. We have a Protoss versus Protoss on Korhal LE, or how the map's called. Spawning in the red trunks, our opponent from the Korean ladder. I don't know his name, nor can I pronounce it, so we're going to call him House because the last logo looks like a house. I know that's like terribly insensitive, but that's what we're going to run with. He is our opponent. Spawning in the top right position, we have our hero spawning in the blue trunks, the underdog, the people's champ. We have DuckvilleLOL. Duckville's our hero. He's does some casting for StarCraft 2 for the Australian scene. I tried to do an Australian accent, but it would just fuck up. Go check him out at his stream at www.twitch.tv/DuckvilleLOL. I helped him with the stream. Just be mindful that it's going to look like shit because he's from Australia. So I did have the pleasure of seeing this game, so I'm just going to call it like it is, and we'll do some analysis on the fly. We see a 13 gateway coming down from House. It looks like Duckville is going to be doing a little bit later of a 13 gateway, but it looks like his chrono boost is a little bit late on the second one. Duckville is actually running in. Sees a gate, doesn't see quite a gas yet, so he's just doing the constellation, doing kind of a little pentagram around the way. And able to see an additional gas. Nothing too cheesy from either one of these players quite yet. Both are doing pretty standard openings. So now, Korhal LE, you've got a base that's pretty quick and pretty easy to defend. You know, one pylon can cover most of this area. Third's pretty close by as well. Just take a little bit of walk over there, and it actually leads up to a pretty easy fourth. Two Zelnaga watchtowers actually cover the middle of the map, and we've got some expansions along the sides. Duckville's gateway is done, and he throws down a core. And now House's core is in a little bit of an interesting position. He's got one pylon power on each thing. I think it's a good thing that Protoss should be able to do, is to be able to hide your buildings, so either just do some really kind of cheesy or cute shit here and there. We see a second gas coming down for both players. So both players in the PvP kind of stance of things are both doing something pretty similar. Now some common spots to check. Nearly every single Protoss is a cheeky little pylon right here, or a cheeky little pylon over here to be able to do some down warps. Placing something right here is also pretty shady as well, so you just place something right here to apply some pressure from the third or come up from the third. And again, we're seeing some pretty identical play from both players. We see some chrono boost being spent on Warp Gate and the Stalker, as opposed to House, who looks like he just did it on his Stalker. I do like the Protoss music, it's not that bad. We see Duckville actually placing, or just scouting along the map, seeing what kind of information you can find. House is actually putting a very front probe, but looky here, we see a Stargate play coming from Duckville. A man after my own heart. I tried to do this on the ladder and I forgot to get additional gateways, so I had like 6 Phoenixes and like 2 Zealots. I got killed by a 4-gate. So we see House actually building a robotics facility, which is something more traditional or more standard that you see. So pretty much Stargate does beat Robo, but Robo beats anything on the ground. So let's see how both these players actually come into contact. Both Warpgate is going to finish at about the same time. House's gateways were actually completed a little bit earlier. The scouting probes really still haven't been doing much, but House looks like he's starting to do some cheeky stuff, as we see a Phoenix being warped in. So let's see what happens with that. We see an additional gateway being planted down for House. No additional tech being done right now, so we see an observer being placed. Looks like House is still looking for any kind of shenanigans. Duckville just chilling, admiring the view with the water that's over here. And we see the first Phoenix actually out, just gathering up some energy. And the 2 gateways being completely warped in by Duckville. Some Stalkers being warped in, actually cutting probes from both sides. Something you definitely want to try not to do, especially if you want to, get up to the next realm. Duckville actually adding a forge towards the top, being able to have some cloak detection just in case a DT decides to run by. House actually taking an expansion, and like I said, I didn't even have to I watched the replay, I did, but I told you there's gonna be some cheesy shenanigan pylons right over here, so just keep an eye on that. We see 3 Phoenixes about to roll out. We see a 4th one just about on the way. As an observer comes in, and actually he misses the Stargate altogether. We see an additional base going down for Duckville. Looks like that Phoenix is rallying with his buddies over here. And it looks like we're seeing some Stalker Immortal. And we go to his view. He still doesn't know what kind of tech is over there. So we see 4 Phoenix. And it looks like they're kind of getting a hint. So House just now knows that there is there's Phoenix on the way. So let's see what these Phoenix can do. Picking up some probes. Picking up a 4th, picking up a 5th. Actually taking some probes off the gas, and you know what? None of them actually take any hull damage. We go to units resources lost. 6 probes lost to only 1 of Duckville's. So it's actually a favorable trade, and he's actually able to get out of all of those. Now Duckville adding some additional cannons towards the bottom to be able to prevent any kind of complete walk, which is actually a pretty decent idea. And it looks like that, just as I was saying, that House was completely closing out his robotics bay tech, so it looks like he's going to transition into Colossus. We see an observer just still flying around and being able to do kind of what it wants to do. Really can't. Duckville really doesn't have a proper response to it. Duckville actually starting +1. And that observer actually just kind of got stuck in the wrong place at the wrong time. Actually got shot down by those cannons. So we're kind of a lull in the game. So it looks like we're going to see... we see some additional Phoenixes being rallied in. So we're up to 5 Phenoxini. So we're about to get to 6. I don't see any upgrades for the Phoenixes. Maybe that was intended, or maybe that's the next step, but it looks like he's getting +1, adding a Twilight Council to be able to get Blink or any other kind of fun shenanigans. Additional observer being sent out by House, which is terrible. Like, if anyone could help me pronounce this or actually say what the real name is, I'd be more than happy to try to say that. And we see DuckvilleLOL going for a round 2 with Phenoxini, actually running in, see what kind of damage they can pick up. 1 more probe, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more probes being shot down, and House really doesn't have a proper response to it. He's actually just doing a drive-by. There's an actual cannon there, and Phoenix are actually pretty resilient against direct fire. They're actually light and mechanical, so really there's not really a whole lot that do really good against Phoenix except other Phoenix. Splash damage does do pretty well against them, so storms or Thor volleys are probably some of the best. If you're Zerg, you kind of have to pray for a good fumble. Now, interesting enough, House finally got a whiff of what kind of tech is going, and it looks like that Duckville's adding an additional Stargate. Not doing any kind of tech with the Twilight Council just yet, or even getting additional upgrades. So this might be a slight hiccup at play. Going to the unit counting station, Duckville's taking a slight lead at 41 probes to 37 from House, 38. So, and again, if we go to the units lost tab, there's about 13 probes being lost, which Duckville's doing a good job of at least staying in the game. +1 air weapons now being started. When was the last time you saw that in a PvP? When was the last time you saw that in any game involving Protoss? Holy shit. So Colossus production has just started getting underway. House starting to get a little bit supply blocked, adding a Twilight Council of his own. And, I mean, the beautiful thing about the Phoenix is that, the amount of units that House is actually able to see, he's not able to really push. I mean, he's got quite a few cannons here. He's not going to be able to really push until he has more than 2 Colossus, and probably 3 or 4. We see some pylons being worked in from House, and we actually see a fleet beacon from Duckville, our superhero. See +1 additional Colossus and a Twilight Council on the way. We got some Phoenix that are actually preparing for another battle. So we'll kind of see what happens with that. They're actually flying in, guys. Being deflected by the amount of Stalkers that are there, and they're just kind of seeing what they can pick at and poke at. And all the defense that's actually being placed in, I'm sorry for any kind of stuff that's being placed in, some additional pickups being done by Duckville's Phoenixes. We look at the units lost tab, and more have been picked up. It looks like he might have lost one Phoenix, which is true, going from 50 to 300 because Phoenix cost about 250 resources. And Duckville, in a very, very surprising way, he's about 20 food supply, but don't let that be deceiving of you, because we see some Anion Pulse Crystals. Have you guys never seen that upgrade before? That's actually the upgrade for the Phoenix. It increases the range effective of Phoenixes by 2. Again, when have you ever seen this in a game? So we see Stalkers, we see an Immortal, and we see some Colossus against what's mostly a Phoenix army. We see some additional gates being warped in. Now, the cool thing is that the Phoenixes are pretty resilient. I mean, they're really not going to die unless you really hold position over something they just can't shoot at. And really, like, I mean, there's 14 Stalkers here. Don't get me wrong. 14 Stalkers are great. But the thing is that, you know, a lot of the army is in Colossus or even Immortals, so the Phoenix are just going to go to town on everything that just stands up. Being able to pick up the Immortals, too, completely negates their effectiveness. And it looks like we're going to see a battle, or at least both players kind of butt heads. Duckville, oh, they completely missed each other. Looks like Duckville actually going for an additional pickup. We see House actually getting set up to actually do an additional push, but he doesn't have any reinforcing pylons. It's the only thing that's nervous. But Duckville actually scouting that base, seeing that there's nothing quite there yet. So he's still doing a wrap, and the cannon line of Duckville's actually being besieged. These 4 Colossus are just doing a bunch of damage, lining them up. Can't do anything. We see a battalion of Phoenix actually rolling in, and look how fast they're destroying that Colossus. About 3 full volleys, and they're all dead. So Duckville actually buying some time, actually focus firing the Colossus down. Number 2 goes down. We have number 3 going down, and we have number 4 going down. And there's just a battalion of Stalkers and an Immortal left over, and each of these Stalkers are just getting picked up and cleaned up by all of these units. The Phoenix is just rolling in and picking them all up. Excuse me, sir, did you get a pickup? And again, some additional units. It's like, okay, whatever. So Duckville actually cleans this up pretty well, realizes, oh, there's 2 Stalkers left over. Let's pick those guys up too. So well played from Duckville, actually utilizing the, I don't know, 19 Stalkers that are there to be able to clean that up with 2 more on the way. So Duckville's actually able to keep that alive, so he can start, you know, churning out whatever he wants to. We see +2 air weapons. Who sees +2 air weapons in a PvP? We see a 3rd and we see a 4th base being placed down. And we're also going to see some additional gateways being put in. So we've got 4 gateways up. We see 1 more about to be warped in. And the Phoenixes decide, you know what? I'm a fucking Phoenix, and I don't give a fuck. I'm sorry for the language. But the Phoenixes are just doing a great job. I mean, they tank the damage pretty well. And it's picking up all of these probes. We go to the probe counting station, and they're actually dropping quite a bit. Going to the units lost tab, and I mean, Duckville going by the skin of his teeth, but he's actually in the lead of units lost. And uh-oh. Is that what I think it is? Is that what I think it is? The unit that is not going to be with us in Heart of the Swarm? Keep an eye on me, keeping me honest. We're going to hear its announcement whenever it enters the battle. So the 3rd looks like it's about to be up and running. The 4th is not too far behind it. We see some additional probes being transferred in from the main base, and it looks like our Korean enemy is actually down by about 40 food, even though with all the pylons that are actually being warped in. And then 2 additional Stargates being warped in at home. Sky Protoss, sup son? So if we go to... So I got actually like 15 seconds to go being able to get that set up. So I don't know. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's not Superman. It's... Woo! That was well timed. How about them apples? Alright, that's my claim to fame. I got the carrier timing just right. Alright, I'm done with this game. Some additional zealots being warped in. We have some interceptors being built. We actually see our Protoss villain actually trying to take a 4th base. And Pro counts at about even. We see some Archons being built, which is the correct response. Archons are massive units, and they cannot be picked up by the Phoenix. They also do a little bit of splash damage, so the actual fact that they're actually getting bunched in. Also, did you see those feedbacks? Very nicely done by House. We see some additional carriers being warped in. Does House have any ideas? Nope. Where are the minerals? They're not there anymore. Alright. We didn't need them anyway. So we actually see no shields. We see +1 ground weapons. So we see some zealots with some sharper blades. We see +1 Protoss plating for the carrier unit, and we also see +2 air weapons, so 7. They do 2 attacks apiece, so that's 14 damage per interceptor. Alright, we see an Archon Stalker Ball going up the left-hand side. We actually got an additional Colossus as well, so that base is probably not going to last very long. And the Phoenix are actually rolling in. They're actually going to lock that stuff down. So Phoenix actually provides some feedback, but got to be really careful about bunching them up, though, because the Protoss Archons do really great splash damage. So if they're able to just bunch up those Phoenixes, then they're literally going to two-shot them. And DuckvilleLOL's strategy is to keep these Phoenixes alive. I mean, about 12 is still great enough to be able to prevent any kind of damage, but or to be able to prevent any kind of harassment. But DuckvilleLOL is still about 50 feet ahead of his opponent. We see some Phoenixes actually leading the way. And it looks like House is just about to be introduced. Oh no, those bunched up those units. Look at all of them Zealots actually rolling in. And look at them carriers. Whoever thought that interceptors would be something to worry about. The Phoenix is actually not being able to do a whole lot, but the Archon's trying to single fire each Protoss unit, and they do quite a bit of damage against the carriers, but the 8 Archons that were there against DuckvilleLOL are actually completely negated by the carriers that are actually in here. 3 more carriers on the way. We actually see the Graviton Catapult, which allows the carrier interceptors to launch more quickly, and we actually see +3 air weapons. What the fuck is going on? Look at all them bees. It's not every day that you get to see Sky Protoss, ladies and gentlemen. Look how pretty all that stuff looks. I'm trying GSL Observer Micro here, guys. So the carriers are actually sieging what is House's 3rd base. And if we zoom over here, there's really not a good proper response. We see some Stalkers actually blinking in, but you know, there's actually almost more carriers than there are Stalkers. You know, there's about 6, and they're all being lifted up, and they're just getting obliterated. The Archons actually down on the low ground are actually focus firing the carriers, and one more shot might have been able to take that out, but that carrier is actually able to survive another day as a mentor carrier with 5 kills of its own. Blinking forward, the carriers are actually having to retreat. That one carrier actually leading the attack like a boss with 1 HP. We actually see most of the carriers actually assaulting what would be House's 4th base. And it's kind of sad, these units actually warping in. I'm actually losing my mouse with how much shit is going on the freaking screen. Some Stalkers are just warping in slowly at a time. There's really not a whole lot we can do. 3 weapons is about to be done. An additional Nexus is about to be warped in for DuckvilleLOL. And our Korean bad guy has actually lost the game. And he left without any GG. So, ladies and gentlemen, you just saw Sky Protoss win a game. It can be done. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it can be done. Congrats to DuckvilleLOL. Check out his stream.